Hello and welcome to Unit 3 on Content Authoring and Management. In this unit, we'll consider the authoring and management of localizable content in order to better understand localization from a process-oriented perspective. The concept of content, both technical and creative, will be defined, and we'll consider different methods for producing and maintaining the ever-increasing amount of multilingual content available, and the impact that each of these methods has on the localization process overall. In today's digital world, there is a constant flow of content for localization and an increasing need to improve the workflow process by using technology and IT developments to separate localizable content from the coding structures which house it in order to ensure an efficient turnaround time and high-quality deliverables. So let's begin by roughly splitting content into two broad categories, creative and technical content. Creative content can be defined as information, or experiences in the case of video games, directed at a user or an audience located within a specific context. This could include local editions of international publications, both in print and online, as well as any audiovisual or textual material made available through a website. In cases where this material has been produced for the purposes of marketing, a copywriter will usually be employed to research the audience and write a text which is designed to elicit a particular response from the audience, such as buying a particular product or providing their email address to a mailing list. Website techs will also need to employ certain strategies, known as search engine optimization or SEO, in order to stand out among the search engine rankings and to enable customers to locate the page or products that they were searching for. Technical content is, of course, usually produced by trained technical writers. The aim of technical writing is to instruct a user on how to do a particular task or set of tasks, such as is seen in instruction manuals or other product-related documentation. The mode of delivery for this type of content has changed over recent decades. Whereas initially these texts were produced, printed, and then shipped with products, these days the texts are increasingly made available via a company's website in both an online and downloadable format. With either of these types of content, the content producer receives feedback from users and applies this in the form of updates to the material. This produces an ongoing cycle of content being authored and managed and which is in need of localization in order to reach its intended audience. However, not all content is produced in the same way. Some content producers use the more analog methods of producing content, which involves using word processing or desktop publishing software such as Microsoft Word or Adobe's InDesign or FrameMaker. Content is then saved in the file format associated with that software, for example in a Word doc, an IND document, or a PDF format, and managed as a standalone version of a document. In these types of files, the structural information and the content in the file are merged together and cannot be easily separated from each other. To reproduce content saved in one of these file formats, a cut-copy-paste command is used to move text from one document to another. Each time the original document is updated or modified, we recreate the file, or at least another version of it. Keeping track of these different versions of files involves saving them individually and storing them separately. Traditional content is, therefore, more static and locked into one format for one purpose. This is known as unstructured content. Unstructured content is information which does not use a predefined data model to represent its structure. That is to say, the data is not organized in a predefined manner. Unstructured content is typically text-heavy, but it can still contain data such as dates and numbers. This lack of a predefined structural model can introduce irregularities in the formatting and layout of a document when opening files in different programs. These irregularities would need to be edited and corrected where necessary, and this introduces extra formatting work into the content production workflow. Unstructured content can be produced in a variety of file formats, both universal and proprietary, each of which implies their own specific considerations when importing them into a localization tool. These considerations revolve around preserving styles and formatting and adapting fonts where required in an attempt to minimize the amount of desktop publishing work which must be carried out as part of technical quality assurance in any localization project. Try out our file types interaction after this presentation to find out more about the technical implications of these formats when they are presented for localization. As Joanna Drugan states, quality assurance, or QA, refers to systems put in place to preempt and avoid errors or quality problems at any stage of a translation job. Quality assurance, then, is distinct to quality assessment. Whereas the former is an overall approach to ensuring output quality, one which must be considered from the beginning of a project and monitored throughout, quality assessment is completed on the final product to determine its quality level based on predefined parameters. Linguistic quality assurance carried out on content contained within unstructured file formats generally involves the use of a style guide, which can vary considerably in terms of size and scope of topics covered. Style guides, also known as manuals of style, provide a set of previously agreed standards for writing documents in order to ensure consistency within and across those documents. The style guide will define best and/or preferred practice in the composition of language and visual elements, orthography and typography. Style guides can grow to be very large documents containing so much information that it can become difficult to assimilate it all in a timely and efficient manner. Dedicated proofreading tools such as Perfected, developed by the British company Intelligent Editing, make checking a document against a particular style guide more efficient and consistent. Large institutional style guides can be preloaded into the proofreading software, but it is also possible for users to define and maintain their own style guide. In the absence of a dedicated proofreading tool, other word processing and desktop publishing software offer a variety of features for the purpose of quality control, such as spell checkers, grammar checkers, autocorrect features, language configuration tools, special characters, review features, and the definition of character sets, encoding, and font mapping features. These features are also included within localization tools so that quality can be monitored and controlled through each stage of the project. In comparison to unstructured content, structured and semi-structured content do use predefined models for representing data. That is to say, the content is organized in a predictable way and classified using metadata, which is data that further describes data. Structured content is any data which is well organized, such as information stored in a database or spreadsheet. This information is easy to search and information can be easily accessed and retrieved, such as in a translation memory or in a terminology database. Semi-structured content is still structured and organized, but less so in comparison to structured content. The information within semi-structured content is also not as easy to search for and retrieve, although the use of software frameworks can facilitate such searches. Semi-structured content can be structured using a markup language, which is used for annotating a document in a way which is syntactically different to the content text. The syntax for markup languages is defined according to a specification, such as XML. Modern methods of content creation use XML or extensible markup language to define the structure of their content. XML presents structure as separate and syntactically distinct from the content and was designed to make it easier to share data across software applications. Instead of using formatting options defined in a style guide to differentiate one item from another, the content author differentiates by defining the purpose of the item, for example, by defining an element as a heading or a title, and they can also define the element's relationship to other elements. Since the creation and development of XML as an open standard for content creation and sharing, there has been a shift away from the use of traditional unstructured content types. The use of these unstructured file formats led to the presence of non-translation related costs within the localization process, namely extra desktop publishing work or other technical quality assurance steps, and at times it even created delays in the release of products to the international or local markets. Many companies have adopted XML and single-source publishing as a way of managing their content. With single-source publishing, the author conforms to an XML schema when writing, and publishes content within a content management system, or CMS. The author can then choose to export the content to a range of different formats, such as a Word document, PDF, HTML, etc., and there is considerably less time spent on formatting and desktop publishing, as the XML defines how the text should be laid out and presented in each file format. Interest in the use of open standards for data exchange has been growing over recent decades. In the localization industry, we have seen the advancement of XML-based file formats such as TMX, TBX, and XLIF. Microsoft has also adopted the standards and converted many of its previously unstructured formats such as Doc, XLS, and PowerPoint to now semi-structured formats of DocX, XLSX, and PPTX, as well as including the Open Document Format ODT, which allows users to move between Microsoft Office programs and other similar software without losing the formatting of their documents. The use of XML structured content presented within a content management system has greatly increased the speed and efficiency of many localization projects. Many websites using content management systems such as Drupal or WordPress can now be localized using a connector or plugin which automates the process of extracting new content for localization, assigning that content to a translator, and reintegrating the localized content into the website once quality assessment has been verified. This offers huge time and cost-saving benefits to clients and allows them to have more control over the localization process. Although translators do not need to be experts in XML, it is increasingly useful to have a basic understanding of what it does and how it works, especially when handling data in TMX and TBX, the XML-based formats for exchanging language resources. XML is extensible, which means that users can create their own tags as required. The tags can be validated against an existing schema or set of rules, or they can be used to create a tailored definition of the content structure. XML can be read by both humans and machines and can be viewed within a simple text editor program such as Windows Notepad. XML tags come in pairs with an opening and closing tag, which must both be present in order for the tag to function. The text between the tags is the creative or technical content being produced, and this is known as localizable content. XML has its own syntax, but is not a programming language as it cannot carry out any kind of computation and it does not use algorithms. It is more similar to HTML, the language used to structure website pages, although XML has a broader application than HTML. As well as the open document formats developed, other standards are also being used to author content, such as DocBook and the Darwin Information Typing Architecture, or DITA. XML schemas have been developed to define some rules regarding the relationships permitted between elements and attributes, and the order in which these elements must appear in the layout of the text. You can learn more about XML and how it works by following the link in this unit's file types interaction to the W3C Schools website and completing their short introductory tutorial. Overall, the use of XML in conjunction with other open standards such as Unicode and the localization-specific XML formats has greatly improved the efficiency of many localization projects. However, the move towards single-source authoring is still viewed as a time-consuming and costly investment initially. Furthermore, the use of XML-based standards does not eliminate the need for desktop publishing entirely. It simply shifts the cost back to the client who, after delivering an XML-based file for localization, will also receive an XML-based file in return and must then use that to author their single-source content. Clients can be ill-prepared for managing this process. With XML-based file formats, clients need to be prepared to produce their own multiple language versions within their own technical publishing departments, where this would have been previously handled by the localization agency. Localizing content is, however, only one part of the localization process. As we learned in previous units, the other part involves localizing the package, such as the user interface, the help files, and other related documentation. New file formats have been developed for this, as new programming languages are also developed, such as Ruby on the Rails and the mobile operating systems such as Android and Apple's iOS. Understanding the implications of these newer formats is important for quality assurance in localization, as it allows potential problems to be anticipated before they can escalate and risk affecting the on-time, on-budget delivery of a project. In the next unit, we'll consider the use of different localization technologies that can be employed to handle the structural aspects of localizable files. This concludes the presentation on content authoring and management. Please click Next to continue to the File Types interaction.